But do you think, like with feminism, with the separation of men and women, do you think it'll be flipped? Where things like where in Sharia law, where women can't work with men, would it be flipped where men can't work with women? Where women, well, they already, I don't know the exact numbers. Um, are women the dominant workforce right now?
Even if women are if even okay, the reason that the women are basically becoming the dominant workforce is because for damn near 50 years you've tamped down the men.
Right.
You've basically, you guys, the Gen Xers, and even to more to a greater degree the millennials, like you guys, have been socialized. You guys are a lot more feminist than you actually think you are, compared to like boomers. You can tell there's a big rift between boomers because you guys were actually feminized in the school system and in the society. So you guys were the first group that are actually feminized.
Okay.
So, and when I hear you guys talk, I can hear it. I can hear the feminist training, because you guys will repeat feminist talking points. Like men and women are equal. If you hear millennials talk about men and women are the same, they can do the same jobs, they can take care. A woman can take care of herself just as much as a man can. Blah blah blah, on and on and on and like that. Where when I grew up, there was the interdependence. There were actually roles for men and women. Okay, you guys grew up where there are no rules for men and women. There is no woman. There's no woman's role. There's no man's role. So you guys were actually feminized. Uh, they in 1972, they for the Xers, they actually for the Gen Xers, they actually started training them from kindergarten on up, and basically they started perfecting that. So by the time you guys came along in the 80s, it was already perfected. So, but the thing is, it went too far because you've tamped down the men so much that basically what you've been taught goes against your biology. And so that's how come MGTOW is actually sprouted up so vehemently, because um, the role they want you to play doesn't feel right because it goes against your biology. Gender roles are actually built according to your biology. This is the way men work, and this is the way women work. And so you have almost like for the female millennials, they want to go back to where, a lot of them want to actually go back to the way men and women were back in, say, the 50s and 60s. And basically the men are just rebelling against the system, period. This is fucked up. I don't like this system. The system's unfair. Basically, I don't like being restricted, like you trying to restrict me, and I'm going to rebel against it. So you have MGTOW and Red Pill and all this other shit that's coming up because um, you guys are getting tired of being tamped down enough. In other words, it's gone too far.
Mm.
I
So
never
me,
thought of
so,
that.
so
Hey,
me, so me
yeah.
too, and all this other crap that's coming up basically is to restrict the men.
You broke that. The day you broke that shit down, I never thought of it that way. God damn, that shit made me think.
If you, that's how come I always
Damn, I never thought about it that way. I'm like, because I say it because I'm part of the millennial generation, but still, like, God damn, I
yeah,
never looked at it that way.
because I had, became a MGTOW. They were talking about. I said, well, let me go investigate exactly what happened and why, because I knew that they implemented the laws in 1972, right? But
Yeah,
I knew the laws that's Title 9 and Title 10 were actually there to uh, um, even out the gender roles, because um, they wanted to tamp down the guys, but I didn't know why they wanted to tamp down the guys. So I had to actually go back in history, back into the 60s, and figure out why. There were two revolutions actually come, or there was three things, and I actually pointed out, because MGTOW Universe, he's probably seen it, my Feminized America series.
Yes, it's been a while, but yeah.
In other words, there's three things that I pointed out that I went through. Demographics, uh, the civil rights, the civil rights movement, and the anti-war movement, all coalescing at the same time. baby boomers basically doubled the size of doubled the size of babies being born. So basically, the baby boomers outweighed everybody else as far as population by a factor of 2. And if you read, if, if Quigley was one of the few people that actually tell the truth about demographics. Okay, men 15 to 45 are called arms bearing. In other words, if there's going to be a revolution, it's the population between the men between the ages of 15 to 45, most likely the ages between 15 and 35 will actually turn over to society, right? So if you have this huge increase in males, okay, you're gonna all of a sudden you're gonna get all these huge movements that are actually gonna go someplace. Like, why do you think the civil rights have been around basically since the 40s, but all of a sudden in the 60s it exploded? Because all those males, those black males that have that basically had doubled their size, came of age in 1962, 1963. They're born in 1945. They're 18 years old in 1963. That's where you get this big, huge push in civil rights, where you get the big marches, you get the riots, you get all that stuff, right? Because males actually moved up, like Sruling said, they actually oppose the environment. They oppose the system. Okay, you kind of give the black folks, the black men, something to kind of cool them off, right? But you got this war. You have this system going on where the United States wants to be an imperialist power, and they need the men to actually go out and basically control the globe, right? So they have them fighting in World War II, Korea, and then actually next Vietnam. Guess what? The white boys don't want. Okay, they don't want to go out and sacrifice themselves all over the globe fighting wars. So you have this big anti-war movement, and you have all these white males that are pissed off and want to overturn the system. So you got black males and white males all together in this big protest system, and they're ready to do what? Overturn the system. And there's nothing you can do with them because they're prime age, and there's so many of them. What do you do? What would you do? You got to find a way to tamp them down, take the power away. How do you do that? You also you have this big boom in what? Females. Okay, as a counterweight. How do you counterweight? You take away power to the males and give it to the females. That's what they did. So
By doing what? By doing what?
Title IX. Making white females part of the civil rights class, giving them jobs, protect them in the workforce, anti-rape, giving them power over their wombs as far as birth control and abortion. And all these laws actually all came out. Title 10, which is the family plan, the Family Planning Act, basically, came out was actually passed in 1970. It's actually sooner than Title IX. Title IX was actually planned in 1970, but it didn't get passed until Kent State. Kent State was the last big blowout of the anti-war in 1972. After Kent State, and after they gunned down those kids in Kent State, 3 months later, Title IX was actually passed. And then Title IX is actually an educational bill. Why is that? Because where do you brainwash children, brainwash people? You don't do it through the media. You do it what? In the classroom, through the Prussian school system. So they wrote it up. They actually sold it as a sports bill, as far as girls being able to play sports, but underneath it was about the classroom, about equalizing the classroom and changing gender roles. So in other words, we can't physically, you can't dominate all these men or all these boys.
Right.
Can't dominate them. What do you have to do? You have to brainwash them. So they started hacking away at males' rights. No fault divorce, abortion, in birth control, sexual assault, sexual harassment, all those stuff. All those laws were passed between 1972 and 1980. And everything else is just an extension of it. If you look at Me Too, Me Too is actually an extension of extension of the Dear Colleagues letter, because they reinterpreted Title IX, and and basically enforce yes means yes. And then the other states actually coalesced around and start passing laws around the yes means yes. And then the Cosby thing comes in, and basically yes means yes goes from the colleges to the workforce. So now Me Too is nothing but yes means yes in the workforce.
Right.
That's all it is. But the thing is, it all extends from the same root, which is Title IX. Title IX is the linchpin. If you look at Title IX, if you get rid of Title IX, 90% of these laws that there have been enacted probably would disappear.
But that's not
Because
going to happen.
it's not going to happen. What I'm saying is, this is where it comes from. So,
Right.
and saying there's probably a lot of people that don't even like me analyzing it like that, because if you start looking at the tea leaves, that's what it is. And basically, if you look at what's been happening over, because I've been watching this over the last 20 years. So them tamping down the boys, they knew this stuff back in 1993. That's your what is it? Was it Promise Keepers, or what is it? Promise Keepers? I think it's what was the name of that men's movement back in the 90s? I think it's the Promise Keepers. But anyway, they wanted to take back masculinity, take back the family, stuff like that. I guess the feminists came in and stopped that shit. That's like a single sex education. They got rid of that because the feminists wanted to. They said if you take how can boys be socialized to be around girls if you take the boys and girls out of the classroom together? So it's never about the girls; it's about socializing boys. Even though girls learn better in a single sex educational setting, it's not about the girls. It's about tampering down the boys.
So what is the end game for tampering down the boys?
If we're tamping down the boys, it should have already happened in 2012. That's how come they had all these books called The Richer Sex and End of Men, because they thought it would take a couple generations for it to happen, and it should have showed up in the millennials and they had the split that they wanted. 33% of the households were led by women, 33% were even, and 33% were actually led by men, which is the balance that they wanted. So how if they got the balance that they wanted, women got all the rights and control that they want, how come they're not happy? Because it's basically the women are rejecting the program, like they say, the Matrix. And you can't. There's only so much you can squeeze on the men, because they decided that. That's like I actually go back in my channel, actually go back and actually read stuff from the people that actually passed the laws to explain to you why they actually passed these laws. 1996 child support laws in 1996 is because the women got loose and the system was fucked up because it was too expensive, because all these women are on fucking welfare, draining the federal government. And they said, we can't afford this anymore. What are we going to do? We'll say, you had two choices. And Janet Yellen said, either restrict the men, either restrict the women, and set the clock back to before 1970, which they said was going to be harsh, or they have to actually further restrict the men. They said that you couldn't do it to the women, so guess what they're going to do? The draconian laws that were for child support and alimony, all that kind of crap, wound up in 1996. In other words, we're going to take more from the men. For the last 22 years or so, they've been doubling down on restricting the men. So at some point you can't do it anymore, and I think we're at that point. You can't do it anymore.
And the blowback became MGTOW.
Well, the blowback is MGTOW, basically.
Yeah.
So
now I'm seeing observation. I see your observation from it. Like, yeah. I'm starting to see this shit like that. That does kind of make sense though. Because I remember when I was I remember when I was in high school, because I've been through special ed from 4th to 12th grade. So like. Yeah, they kind of dociled me a little bit because I was a terrible student, not the best student. But I did notice that like my 11th grade teacher, she told me this shit, and I'll never forget it. It fucked me up for the rest of my life and still fucked me up to this day. She said, I can't deal with this shit. She passed me on to 12th grade, and it fucked me up mentally. And I didn't think about it when I was like 16, because somebody tell you that shit, you be like, oh, whatever. And now that you're an adult, you be like, God damn, that shit fucked me up, man. God damn, like. I see what you see. I see the observation you making here. Like, damn, like the blowback is MGTOW. Maybe it was part of the plan that
No. MGTOW is a result. The biggest I say the biggest mistake and the biggest thing why they have the feminists trying to trying to backslide is because the women didn't accept it.
Yeah.
They still want men to what it is that women want all the freedoms in the world, but they still want men to play their traditional roles.
In other words, they don't want men to drop out.
Yeah.
Basically, the system does not work if the men don't participate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can't have maximum freedom and maximum protection. You can't have men providing their roles without the balance. So in other words, most millennials, I would say 80% said they're never going to get married or have kids. 80%, if you poll them.
That is a lot. That's a high number, though. That is kind of high.
We were extremely high. In other words,
Yeah.
it's unsustainable.
Oh.
Right.
So in other words, so a manager looking at this saying, okay, we did this for 40, 50 years and the shit doesn't work. What do we do now?
Yeah.
How do you unwind? You can't dismantle it. You have to unwind it. How do you unwind 50 years of brainwashing, 50 years of laws that you have to undo? Okay, you can't undo it without system breaking.
Yeah. And what backfired is they never expected the millennial generation or my generation of MGTOWs or got men who are MGTOW. They never expected MGTOW to come from. It came from all these fucked up laws that came from in the past. So like, yeah,
but fucked up laws, but also the attitudes that come along with them.
Yeah.
And so basically, what do you expect? That's like I always knew, even when I first joined first became a MGTOW, right? It was so tiny, man. Only a few people actually knew what the fuck MGTOW actually was.
I tell you up front, when I was 2012, 2013, I never heard of it until that beyond that point. Like, 2013, 2012, I was like, man, what the hell is this? And I looked into it and they started singing shit. I'm like, man, I thought I was the only one agreeing with this shit. And I kind of went through my red pill rage and then I got past it. I'm like, man, this shit liberating as hell, man. I mean, it's the truth and you got to see the world for what it was. But damn, it's freeing. Like I feel like, this generation of guys, and I say much as even though society trying to feminize us, one thing like about this generation of males or the MGTOW brotherhood we have online, it's like everybody shares the same interest, the same common interest. So it's like you can be black, white, whatever, it don't matter. You can be it more MGTOW, it don't matter. It's the same thing. And I think that they didn't expect the millennial generation to rise up. Like I see every day, like articles, the fertility rate dropping out or the marriage rate dropping. I think it was an article recent talking about the diamond company, the company did engagement rings. I forgot they was losing value. They saying they basically some of these companies might have to go out of business because nobody's getting engaged or getting married. And society's saying, oh, it's a man crisis. Is this a man crisis thing while the men gone? And I think that what these people don't realize, and I see this from my generation. I was 14 years old. I tell you up front, before I ever became MGTOW, I had. So I was like, when I was 14 years old, I never forget. I'm not gonna say what happened to it, but like, I saw this stuff coming when I was 14 years old. Like, I never saw it. Like, I remember getting to this conversation where it was altercation. I was like 14 back in the day, and it was a guy's conversation with this girl. And she hit me first, and I hit her back, and I was defending myself. I never sort of forget that day, man. The principal brings me into the office, and this is why I started. The red pill shit in me came to me. Now I was started when I was 14, so I kind of saw it coming, and I saw it. I'm in the police. I'm in the police. I'm not in the police office, but I'm in the principal office, and the principal's like, "You can't hit a girl," and I'm telling him, like, she hit me, man. I'm like, what I'm supposed to do here? Not, what you call it? I'm not supposed to not defend myself, like whatever. And then the father and the brother and the mother come in there, and the police officer saying I was 14. They was about to charge me as an adult for hitting a girl, saying you cannot hit a girl. They suspended me for 20 days. And I looked at my pops. I said, I'm never having kids. And I told myself this was like 14. This was like way back in the day before my dad passed. And I was like, this, and I look back on it now. I'm like, damn, I was wise. I was ahead of my time way before I even heard of MGTOW. So it was like, God,
MGTOW is just the name.
Yeah,
it's just the name. If you actually look at the environment, it was already there. Just somebody actually gave it a name to people that actually rallied behind the flag.
Yeah.
Because it was there's a lot more people out there that are just like that. The thing is that they've never heard it because they think that I'm the only one that thinks that way, and that's not true.
Yeah.
And when they hear it, that's like I always even back in the day when they say, well, should MGTOW go public because they might shut us down. I said they can't. I said if they were actually smart, they would leave you alone and wouldn't even talk about you. Yeah. If they were smart, they wouldn't fight against you because if they do, well, if they because it is eventually they were going to try it, and then they were going to go up against it, and then they would actually spread it. It's like a virus.
Yeah.
If you come in contact with it, you're going to spread it. Yeah. So what is the best thing? To isolate it and not come in contact with it.
I know in 2017 I went monk, and I tell you what front, I went monk, and I tell you what front, like going MGTOW monk for a lot of people, I can speak for myself, but that shit freed me, bro. Like before all that, I was like very like whatever, peer pressure and all kinds of shit. But now I realize I can control my urge. Like I don't have to have sex, and I feel more fulfilled than most guys that chase tail. Like,
yeah,
and I tell them,
unless you become black pill,
yeah,
then
you know,
chase tail all day long. It doesn't matter.
Even though I have some black pill views of society, I don't let it get in my way, because I do believe there are some good days that, you know, us as men, that no matter how bad shit get, it's always a better day. Even I believe that, I'm positive, negative at the same time.
If you have millions of MGTOW go black pill, boy, the society will freak the fuck out.
But you know, I can see it happening though. Actually,
when I'm talking about nihilist black pill, I'm talking about true black pill. I'm talking about Joker black pill.
Yeah. I think that would.
So B, just have a question. So if you're someone in power, and you're just kicking the tires on where men are at, and you see like on Google Analytics that this thing called MGTOW has been growing for the past 7 years, and you know, men are starting to fire back in the media about this hashtag Me Too stuff. What do you do to try to? Well, you come to the conclusion that, you know, maybe we've pushed it too far. What do you do? What are the next steps you take?
Now you only have two choices. You hope that it corrects itself, whereas human beings actually will correct their behavior on their own. And if not, then you would slowly try to dismantle, say, like the problem, like family law, family courts. Betsy DeVos actually getting rid of the Dear Colleague letter, allowing the actual old laws actually take effect like they were supposed to. So in other words, you have the right to defend yourself, all that kind of stuff. That would actually start to even things out and actually let the natural course of human behavior actually take its effect. But as far as if I was in charge, and say if I was really in charge and I actually saw MGTOW, I said, oh shit, it's finally here. Okay, we've been looking at it, wondering if it's going to show up, and now it's showing up. Now we have to do something, because it's actually show. I would actually look at MGTOW and see if it would actually grow. If it didn't grow, I wouldn't worry about it.
Right.
Because you can see the federal government has never addressed MGTOW. Ever.
Right.
There's never been a law against. They can't.
Yeah.
Well, unless they group us in with the alt-right, then they have.
Even if you group it in with the alt-right, you actually make it worse, because your alt-right is actually a lot of your alt-right are actually Christian conservative, right?
Right.
So if MGTOW actually gets grouped in with the alt-right and back, so what are you going to do? You're actually going to spread it even further and faster. Your best thing is if you can't isolate it, is to ignore it, and hopefully that it'll actually normalize and actually peak and burn itself out.
But I don't see that happening. What they're hoping. I don't see it happening.
That's it. Well, it could have happened. It could have happened. The one thing that actually started MGTOW to growing again is when the BBC actually went after MGTOW.
Yeah.
Back in 2014, I do believe. They actually went after him and they publicized it. Yeah. And a lot of people that didn't know what it was started looking into it, because now the the press and all the feminists and the press actually went after it because they wanted to crush it and destroy it. What they found out was they actually spread it. So you don't hear feminists talking about MGTOW anymore, do you?
Mm-mm.
Or you don't see feminists coming after your channels and that kind of stuff anymore, do you?
Mm-mm.
Why do you think that is? Because they know they'll spread it. So they're hoping that if they ignore it,
like, yeah, it's spreading even with despite the hate, because I see more people making MGTOW videos saying they embrace it, like it saved their lives.
Yeah, but you're gonna slow the rate of spreading. If the federal government all of a sudden announced that MGTOW was an issue and we need laws against MGTOW, you're gonna have 300 million people saying, "What is MGTOW?" Right?
Right.
And they're gonna look into it.
If for those of you that remember, Paul Elam did an interview with ABC. This was back in 2013 ish, somewhere around there. They never aired it. They never aired it.
Oh, it was 2014. Yeah. 2014.
Yeah, somewhere around. Yeah. He did consider himself a MGTOW, but he certainly understood. Paul Elam considered himself an MRA, but even then,
he hated MGTOWs, boy.
Yeah, back then, he used to call us pigtails back then. But if people start asking the question, well, what is MRAs? And then, of course, once you do enough research about MRAs, you eventually come across MGTOW.
MGTOW, yeah.
So ABC never released that interview.
Yeah,
there's a reason for that.
All MGTOW is an extreme version of the MRA.
Right. At
its core. It's really what it is. In other words, if MRAs are Martin Luther King and MGTOWs are Malcolm X by any means necessary.
Yep.
That's scary. That should scare somebody. Like if I'm president, if I'm a lawmaker, that should scare the fucking living shit out of me. Like
if you tell that to the public, know, MRAs like MLK and MGTOWs like Malcolm X, people like, oh shit, we gotta do something about these MGTOWs.
But the thing is you can't do anything about it because you can't isolate them because it's like putting sparks in putting little sparks in your pocket and walking across a grass field. When you want to stop a forest fire, you isolate it.
Right.
You don't try to attack it. You try to cut it off and isolate it because all it takes is one spark to jump and actually inflame a whole new section. That's what happens if you attack MGTOW. You actually spread it because the first question is, damn, what is MGTOW?
Didn't Big John do an interview with CNN?
Who?
Big John. MGTOW is freedom, actually.
They might. He could have, but the thing is, are they going to air it?
No, they ain't gonna air it. They ain't gonna air it.
Well, they're both MGTOWs.
They're freaking them out. That freaked them the hell out. They actually.
They made the BBC made that mistake once.
Yeah, they interviewed. Oh God, what's his name? He's a MGTOW too. I forgot his name. CS MGTOW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like a radio show from affiliated with the BBC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the interviewer, while he could not disagree with any of the points, he still left with the whole notion of, I don't disagree with you, but I'm not going to publicly agree with you either.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't.
You can't. I have to do a review. There's so many books I need to do a review of because I suggest people read shit, but I know people ain't gonna read shit.
I read a lot, so
yeah. There was a book called, I think it was Decline of Marriage. They actually did a conference back in 1989.
I think was her name.
No, it's actually a book from papers. It was actually had a conference in 1989 about the decline of marriage.
Oh,
and it's actually a worldwide phenomenon. They want to try to figure out what's causing it and how do we arrest this problem. So they already knew what was going to happen, what was happening way back in the 80s. But the thing is, they couldn't figure it out. Because there's a lot of reasons. Feminism and all this kind of crap are not causes; they're effects. The cause is the Industrial Revolution, and the effects that it has all over the world. Because even in patriarchal countries like Korea and China, Singapore, that don't have the same cultural history that say the West has. You see the same things pop up. So the thing is, it's a physical environment. In other words, your cultural, not your cultural, but your industrial age actually change your physical environment. So everything else is shifting, and basically nobody knows how to self-correct this problem because the females stop reproducing. Remember the video Mouse Utopia?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
There's a switch in the biology that when they don't need any more young, the women, all these switches go off, and the population society kind of shuts down from reproducing children. And this is the switch that's going off. And these are the side effects, because without children, you don't need a marriage. There's no reason that you, if the females are protected in the environment, it was relatively safe. You got plenty of food, you got plenty of everything. Other than sex, men and women really don't have a role together. And how do you keep a traditional cultural instrument like marriage and family, all that kind of crap together if there's no need for it? But you've had this cultural instrument that's been around for 100,000 years, and all of a sudden you get this big shift. Nobody knows how to deal with it because it's never happened before.
Right. And plus, there's just better things to do in our society than just sitting around making kids.
Well, there's better things to do. What I'm saying is, it's not even a matter of better things to do.
Right. There's just more things to do. I'll say
there's
that.
more things to do. But the thing is, an organism will always respond to its environment. And the thing is, if you have an artificial environment that you don't need this, that, or the other, and those things start to go away, what happens to the constructs that you put around the need for children, for work, for families, and all that kind of stuff? What happens? Do you keep it together because people think it's valuable, or does it slowly but surely start to ebb and disappear? And for 200 years, to slowly start to ebb and disappear. And now, what other constructs do you make up in the society to take its place? Because now you have this. It's not the fact that they're going away. The thing is, there's really nothing to organize people around anymore to replace it with. So you have to invent new shit. The thing is, you invent the new shit. Does it work? If it doesn't, do you try something else? And the confusion it causes in the meantime. So we're in this long transition phase.
So let's say, hypothetically speaking, we had like VR technology that had graphics, photorealistic graphics like the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't actually have to have kids, but we have kids in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
That fulfills our needs and wants of a family without actually having a physical family, and going with the risks and all the other stuff. What happens? Like, again, if you're in charge, okay, you see this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's convenient certainly for men and women, but especially men.
How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?
Well, let's go.
All right. You just re-engineer the people.
By socializing them?
No, you literally block by block re-engineer people. You put in circuitry. You redesign their DNA.
So basically, people would be I don't know if evolve would be the right word, but they would be
engineered, not evolved, engineered.
Right.
No, evolution is basically random, and it takes, or it can be selected, but it can be random. Even natural selection is random, because you don't know what genes will mix with what.
Right.
And you say, like, you breed in a human being, right? You bring two sets of traits that you want out of the resulting human being, put them together, and you see what the result is. So you get 5 kids, maybe 1 or 2 of them have the traits that you want. Select those, and basically over generations, you get the kind of human being organism that you want, right?
Right.
And that's the slow way, right? What's the faster way? You're the scientist. What's the faster way?
Well, assuming that you have enough information to do what you want with the DNA, then yeah, you can, or you can make it to where re-engineer the people to where they won't have to depend on on natural birth and stuff like that, their needs and wants already.
Yeah, you don't need. They already have it. They don't need natural birth anymore. They can artificially make people. I mean, literally artificially make people.
Right.
They don't know how sturdy they will be because they haven't really tested it. Tested the human beings, at least not that we know of.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is interesting, but that would also solve the population problem.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of like counter arguments, like the people, because that Luddite movement is right around the corner if that ever happens.
It is, but even in the Luddite movement, advancements in technology over time normally went out, do they not?
What normally went out?
They would normally went out, do they not?
What do you mean by went out?
In other words, normally they'd actually start to dominate. In other words, if you have when I say win out, I mean went out. In other words, they went out.
Went out. Okay, I thought you said went. W-N-T.
No.
Okay, my apologies.
No. In other words, we farm the land and use animals and to actually plow the land. I'm sure there's still spots where they do, but when technology comes in, do you use a large 6-story combine tractor to till and harvest the crops, or do you use a 1,000 people and some oxen and a plow?
Right.
So
we had this discussion before. Where like there's some small tight-knit communities that don't use technology at all, or limits it on purpose. So they won't. I guess their belief is, the more technology you bring in, the more humanity, quote unquote, that you lose of yourself,
or you will lose what your aspect of what you think humanity is.
Exactly. So, and we were talking about how that farmer going against against farmer B that's using that 6-foot tractor, and the farmer A just simply cannot compete.
Yeah. But basically, it's difficult to compete against genetically modified foods, right? Because they're genetically modified to grow faster, faster under more harsher conditions with less water, all that kind of stuff. So, taken to its natural conclusion, if it's just about being efficient and growing more and blah blah blah, GMOs will actually win. What do you lose by going to GMO?
Well, they can put in shit that you don't know about,
or you get side effects that have unpredictable,
exactly,
all that kind of stuff. The thing is, do the advantages outweigh the downside?
That's a good question. I don't know nothing about GMOs to answer that question.
Well, the thing is, nobody really does. Okay,
because I want to say yes, but then there's like, some random shit happening and wiping out a good population of people. Even though it has happened, it